But why I created that is the same for both of them. And I spent half my life engaging in hardcore, strict dieting and punishing chronic excessive exercise. My health, my metabolism, my mental health all took a hit. I'm an excellent dieter. Okay. Not a badge. I'm sure you guys can relate to this. I feel like I'm an excellent dieter. It's not a badge that I'm proud of, but I was compliant. I was a compliant dieter. I did everything right. I tried every diet, every supplement. I nailed my workouts. I diligently tracked my food. I counted, I weighed them, I tracked them. I earned and burned my food, right? That weird paradigm, that weird relationship we have with exercise and food where you work out to earn your food and then you work out to burn your food. You guys know what I'm talking about? That thing. I was excellent at that. And I wasn't a junk food eater. That's the funny thing. I mean, I had my fair share of junk food, but I followed the rules. I ate all of my healthy whole grains. I ate all of my low-fat foods. I ate all of my lean meats. I ate every 2 to 3 hours. I did all of that, and I just got sick and unhealthy. So that it just didn't work for me. My dieting started when I was young, and I watched my hold on here. Clicking out of comment. And I watched my mom diet. No hate or shame towards my mom. And if she ever watches this, I hope she would never feel bad because she's not the reason for my food habits. But and it's not her fault. She was only doing what she knew, right? She grew up in a diet culture just as much as you and I grew up in a diet culture. But we all learn our habits. We all learn our relationship with food. We all kind of develop our health habits somewhere. And it usually starts in childhood. Okay. Not going down the hole. We need to like dive deep into your childhood and see what went wrong there, why we have funky relationships with food. But I do think it's worth thinking about for a moment where you developed some of your habits. And I have a lot of people who tell me that, oh, but I've never really dieted before. Like I've had people want to work with me before and I was like, oh yeah, like what diets and stuff have you tried? And they're like, oh, I don't think I've really like dieted before. And while they may not have dieted, we all grew up in a diet culture, right? We all got the same narrative of women need to watch what they eat. We need to be dainty, light eaters. We must not be glutinous with our food. We need to be thin. We need to be skinny. That narrative has shaped everything about our health and wellness, industry, and whether or not we're a chronic dieter in that, we are still submerged in that understanding of what it is. So fast forward through a decade of dieting, eating disorders, a bad relationship with food, my body, I thought to myself, like, there has to be another way. Like I can't live existing with food like this. Like I feel terrible. I have a terrible relationship with food. There just must be a different way. So, because it's like, well, what about the people who don't want to engage with food that way? The people who don't want to micromanage their food. They don't want to count and weigh everything. They don't want to kill themselves in the gym every day. They don't want to step on a freaking scale every day and quantify everything going on in their lives. What about those people? You know, like those are my people. Like I am those people. Those are the people that I work with, the people that want to reach their health goals and they just want to coexist with food and their bodies peacefully, not obsessively, and just find a reasonable, sane approach to health so they can feel better in their bodies. Taking a water break. Because you'll find I'm going to yap a lot, okay, in this hour. Part of it is going to be me teaching. So I'm just going to be like a talking head at you guys for a while. And then I'll open it if you guys have any questions or there's any more of a narrative or anything like that. But just know that this is me just like word barfing at you for a period of time here and kind of going over each weekly content. The one thing that I forgot to say in the beginning about the housekeeping, and I'm sure you guys have caught this already, but you're going to get a lesson on Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings. Okay. So this lesson, and then on Friday morning at 7 a.m. Central, you're going to get another thing similar to what you got. That's going to have another lesson and then another food fundamental. And those food fundamentals are going to layer. Okay. There's a strategic rhythm to them, and they kind of feed off each other as we go. So there's going to be eight of those, eight of those things total. I had to count in my head there. Here's the thing. We're the only species on the planet who micromanages their food, right? We're the only species on the planet who pays people to tell us how to eat. And I say that lightly because essentially people pay me to tell them how to eat. But I hope that's their last stop. I hope they never have to outsource their health after they work with me. That's the end goal. We're the only species who are not able to regulate our appetites or our weight. All the other animals have figured it out, right? But here we are with the biggest brains of all, and we're struggling. And I always use an example, like think of an animal in the wild, right? An animal in the wild that's in its natural environment, right? Their biological environment, eating their biological diet. They're fine, right? They're healthy, they're thriving, they're not overweight, they don't have any like metabolic diseases or weird things for that species. They're fine, they're thriving. And then think of an animal in the zoo, okay? You've taken that animal out of their natural environment, their natural food source, their natural everything. And what happens to animals in zoo? I don't know if you guys have caught on to this, but animals in zoos aren't that they're not that healthy, right? They tend to be more overweight. They tend to be more riddled with health ailments and like diseases and things like that that would have never developed in that animal if they were in their natural environment. So we're the animals in the zoo, unfortunately. That's the best way I can explain it. We're the animals in the zoo, and we need to get ourselves back more aligned with what our DNA, I'm going to explain this, you guys, this is going to sound weird, what our DNA is expecting of us, okay? So what is the metabolism, okay? And what is metabolic flexibility? That's a word, okay? Metabolic flexibility, that is the overarching goal of anybody who works with me, okay? To get them to a point where they're metabolically healthy and they are metabolically flexible. Our metabolism is our fuel partitioning system, okay? It's our fuel partitioning system of the body that determines how calories are used, all right? How food fuel is converted into human fuel to power our bodies. The metabolism decides if the food that we eat is used as energy or if the food that we eat is stored as fat, right? It goes over to the fat stores, all that stuff that we typically want to get rid of. A myth about metabolism that I want to debunk is that your metabolism responds or cares about food math, okay? When I say food math, I'm talking about macros, I'm talking about calories, I'm talking about points, I'm talking about portion size. I don't know, what is other food math, right? Numbers, these arbitrary numbers that we like to follow because we think that these numbers know better than the wisdom of our body. Metabolism responds to signals, you guys. It responds to signals, inputs like food inputs, sleep inputs, stress inputs, movement, light. That is what our metabolism is synced to. That is what our metabolism responds to. What we have to remember is our metabolism is a very old, ancient system that has evolved to keep humans alive, okay? The sole purpose of your metabolism is to keep you alive. Your metabolism doesn't really give two hoots that we want a bikini body or that you have 30 pounds to lose. Like our body doesn't really care about that. So we need to learn how to play nice with our bodies and our metabolism if we want to get there. The cool thing is the metabolism, our metabolism is the same for all humans, okay? Adults, children, men, women, anything in between, we all essentially use fuel the same way when we are metabolically healthy. There's not a lot of nuance there. We like to think that there's a lot of nuance there, but there's not. And you know why? It's because we're all like 99.8888% genetically the same, okay? Our blueprints, this is where I have to knock on highly personalized like nutrition and meal plan, like nutrition. I don't actually believe in that. Like we are genetically more alike than we are not. And from my point of view, all humans could probably benefit from eating relatively the same food, right? The food that I'm going to talk about, like the food that's species appropriate for us to be eating. I mean, there's nuance to that, right? Because we have like personal preference to certain foods, we have access to certain foods, all of that thing. But I'm just talking from like a DNA perspective. We all could probably benefit from eating the same kind of human food. So here's a concept that you guys might want to make mental note of, and this is going to get a little bit sciencey, so stay with me here, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about, please put it in the comments and I will pause and I will try to expand on it. So the concept of gene expression, okay? We have fixed genes, right? Our familial genes that we inherit from our parents, from our ancestors, like our hair color, our eye color, our height, our blood type, our body shape, right? Like maybe you have broad shoulders running in your family, right? You're gonna have to work really hard to get to get rid of those. And then we have the rest of the genes, okay? All of the 99.9% of the genes. I like to think of genes as like little light switches, okay? Just think of like the light on your wall, the light switch on your wall. Our inputs turn them on or off. I'll give you an example. Somebody with like a metabolic condition like type 2 diabetes, okay? While you might have a genetic predisposition to type 2 diabetes, right? Because there is some genetic piece of some of these things. The condition is the condition is often turned on, right? Think of that light switch by lifestyle choices, right? Like by diet, chronic stress, being sedentary, eating a diet high in sugar, all of these things, right? That kind of influence that gene to express itself in an unhealthy way. And I say all this because I want people to understand we have a lot of influence over our genes, okay? Our genes are not our destiny. This should be good news, right? You guys are in control of this. Our DNA, you guys, our genes, our genetic code, whatever you want to call it, is meant to be healthy, okay? Our default setting as a human is health. It's not the opposite. It's not sickness. It's not metabolic conditions. If our DNA was faulty, our species would have never survived, right? We would have died out millennia ago if there was something wrong with our DNA. So what we're doing here in the reset is we're realigning our inputs to what our ancient DNA is expecting of us, okay? We are old animals, like what your guys' weekly lesson talked about. Our biology is old. And this old biology that we have is not equipped to manage our like modern day lives, right? The modern day inputs that we're doing at our food scene, our sleep scene, our stress scene, our emotional health, our psychological health. Our DNA is just it's overburdened with this modern day fiasco that we've got going on here. So we need to go backwards in order to move forwards. I'm not going to tell you to sleep on the floor. I'm not going to say you need to walk around like a caveman with a little like loincloth, okay? But like, how can we move a little bit closer to that? And here's the thing, if you don't believe in evolution, totally fine. That's just how I conceptualize health. I conceptualize health from like evolutionary biology. But if you don't, just think back to your great, like a bazillion great grandparents, like pre-industrialization, okay? And how they lived and how their environments were. I think that's just another way to look at it if evolution isn't your jam. Are you guys following right now? At least my two here, my replay people, you gotta follow because you don't have a choice to object right now. Okay, I'm making sense.
I think I've read a little bit about what you're talking about as far as inputs turning things on. Isn't that called epigenetics?
Yep, the study of epigenetics. Yep.
All right. Yeah, it sounds familiar.
And it's, how our genes change and turn on and turn off over in a period of time when they look at things like cross-generational over generations of time. It's actually really fascinating, and it should be encouraging to people that like we actually like we influence this more than we think. You know what I mean? I don't think our modern healthcare system, and this is not me poo-pooing on the healthcare system because I believe it has a time and a place for things, but I don't think it's a system that really is empowering for us to think that. You know what I mean? That we have a lot of agency over our own health. And I want people, that's part of like why I'm so passionate about this, is like I want people to believe that they can change their health and that they have the tools and that we have the wisdom on our body already and we were born with it. We need to tap back into it. So that was a nice preamble. And that was like, see, now I just babbled half the time already, you guys. This is what I'm talking about. So you guys just got to reel me in every once in a while. So I'm going to dive in here to the week one. Okay. I kind of go big on the first day. If you haven't noticed that, the purge, the scary purge. I'm glad nobody left the group. I've had that happen, by the way. Um, yeah, interesting enough. I've just had some people slip into the groups over years. I had one vegan fella shimmy into the group, and I had to give him his money. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to jive with you very well. And then people who just got scared about maybe tapping some brakes on some foods that might not be supporting their health anymore. But anyways, enabling your environment, you guys, is hands down the best thing you can do. Honestly, hands down the best thing you can do. What I've learned from previous clients, previous resets, is the ones who struggle the most are the ones who keep like the treats and the unhealthy and the unsupportive foods around. You guys already know that chips and cookies and ice cream and candy, whatever, probably aren't the best options, right? Like you don't need me to tell me that. You didn't pay me the big bucks to tell you not to maybe have cookies in your cabinet. You guys already know that. So make a plan, whatever your plan looks like, to get rid of the foods. And if you need help with figuring out what that plan is, that is where I come in. The wonderful thing about this, you guys, is you have literal 24/7 access to me. That's the point of this group. Where I think my program separates from other programs is like, you have me in your back pocket. And not a lot of programs have that, right? They have recorded calls, like pre-recorded, right? Like they're already like you just sit and watch series of videos and stuff like that. They have co-coaches and all that things, but however you work with me, you always get me, and I think that's nice to people because people like that support, that advocacy, that cheerleader to kind of be there to answer questions and share your successes and all of that thing. So make a plan to get rid of the foods that no longer support you, replace it with the foods that do. This is not to say you guys can never have a treat again. I'm on team treats, you guys. I love my treats. They're great, but that's just the thing. A treat is a treat, right? They're supposed to be a treat by definition is supposed to be like an occasional indulgence, right? Somehow treats have kind of made their way into our grocery cart, into our pantries, and onto our like everyday plates, into our everyday mouths. So I'm just asking that we try to keep them in the treat zone. I had a mom once. I can't remember if she was a one-on-one client or in the reset with me, but she just like made an arrangement with her family. She's like, okay, fam, I'm not going to bring these foods in anymore, especially the foods that trip her up, right? Maybe there's some foods that like her kids eat or whatever she's like, well, I can easily live without those. Like those don't even, if there's crackers in the cabinet, I've never liked crackers in the first place. But the things that she know would trip her up, she told her family she's just not simply buying anymore. But they made an arrangement that it was like every Friday or Saturday or something like that. They would go out as a family, have a treat. They would have it wherever they were, and it never came back to the house. And I was like, I think that's great. Like that's, to me, that's like an indulging in a treat and experiencing like the full experience of having a treat, not this like compulsive, like, oh shoot, I just ate an entire bag of Oreos because I was sad and now I feel bad about myself. Courtney.
Okay, you may go over this later, and I think Angela was kind of alluding to this as well. So, being a baker, I love to bake. I don't do it for a living, but like I also love it. And so it's something I do a lot. And I think one thing that I struggle with is the same as Angela. It's like it's hard to like stop snacking. I think I could do that. I mean, I know I can do that. It's fine. But I feel like it's something you love. Angela does it for a living, right? So like how do you I guess what methods are there to kind of say, okay, like I like this, I like doing this. I'm not going to eat everything and I'm not going to try everything. And, like I'll give it to my friends or whatever. Um, but like, how do you work around that? Because it's like, yes, I don't mind giving up chips and I don't eat a lot of that stuff anyways, but like doing something you love to do, I feel like, how do you, like, do you just stop doing that or you just have to control what you're putting in your mouth?
I think that there's going to be a little bit of both. Okay. I don't want you guys to stop. I mean, Angela, you can't, right? You're like, you can't stop. That's what you do for a living. You bake cakes. You know what I mean? Like, and if there is something that you cannot control, like Angela, your job, then we have to roll with the punches, right? We have to find something else that's going to kind of work for you. And Courtney, if you love baking, I've had a lot of moms and dads and stuff like that. My husband's the chef. My husband is actually a chef by trade. So he likes to cook a lot in our house too. So I get it. And I don't want you guys to stop doing that. And I also think as we start moving through this program and we're really focusing on our meals, I think that tendency and maybe the inclination to kind of snack or have these cravings, the cravings, right? This is what people kind of name a lot of these things. I think some of that will dissipate. Okay. And I'm also going to go in a little bit later in the program. I'm going to talk about and I actually think I talk about a little bit at the end here, just why snacking isn't the greatest. And it doesn't matter if you're snacking on an apple, right? I'm not talking about like there's a difference between snacking on an apple versus snacking on a cookie. It's the what's the word I'm looking for? The act of bringing in food when your body isn't asking for food. Does that make sense? And we're going to talk about this and how that kind of leads to some metabolic struggles and insulin resistance and all of this stuff because our hunger exists for a reason, right? But I think that once we start really kind of honing in on hunger and satiety, you might find that some of that just dissipates. You're like, okay, well, like I can just cook this and make this for my family or for your church group or whatever that might be. And it might not be as tempting as time goes by. Does that sound okay? Yeah. And there's a few other things. And I know Angela, in case we don't have time to kind of talk about it in the group tonight, but I think we should have time. But I wrote back to you in the Facebook group and just so I can get a little bit more context of
Yeah,
your
I
love for
answered it like,
cake.
yeah, I answered it like right before I logged on, and I knew you wouldn't have a chance to see my answer there, but we can talk about it whenever you're ready.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something when I get a little bit closer, I'm going to pull up the Facebook group and just make sure that there's no other questions or anything like that. Sorry, I'm in there really quick here. Because Lindsay said she was joining and she said she can't wait, but I don't see her on here.
She logged in and then I don't know what happened. She's not here now, but she did log in and she actually sent a question. I think she sent it to me directly by accident, so I'll just paste it for you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was like, I thought I saw something pop up for her, but okay. So I'll look at some of those comments and stuff when we get a little bit closer to the end. I want to not first, this isn't the first. I want you guys to lobotomize the words willpower and discipline from your vocabulary and your plate, for a matter of fact. I hate those two words, you guys. I hate those two words. They make me cringe, because the amount of time somebody told me when I was dieting that if I just had a little bit more willpower or discipline that I'd be able to do it, I want to punch those people in the face at this point in time. Like, I hate that. No one here lacks willpower. I just want to say that off the bat. This suggests that you guys lack will. Okay. Do you guys know, like, what's will? Do you guys know what will is? It's like, will is a desire, a choice, an inclination to do different. And that's not the case for anybody here, anybody watching me right now, anybody watching me live. That's not the case because you guys are here in the reset, trying to learn something, trying to regain your health, trying to be open-minded and do some things different. There is no lack of willpower. Just like the thing with the motivation, I don't think people lack motivation. Women are some of the most motivated, disciplined people I know, almost to our detriment. I know you guys well enough to know, yeah, we're all moms. We have 100 fucking things to do during the day. Like we're running a household, we're going grocery shopping, we're cooking meals. Like when people come to me and they're like, I just feel like maybe I'm just like lazy. I'm like, you're not lazy. Like you're not lazy. You just been doing it wrong. We just been doing it wrong, and we're going to try to figure out how to do it right. So I want everybody to start to throw out willpower and discipline out the window. Because it's like, I know you guys who's tried to rely on willpower for a diet. That doesn't last long. It lasts for like 2 weeks, and then you're, kind of back to the beginning. And willpower comes and goes, you guys. Willpower is a finite resource, right? It runs out. Kind of like motivation. It's definitely not something I want to be basing my health supporting habits on, because I know that it's going to waver. We're kind of given this message in diet culture that if we just had more discipline, we could stick to our diets, we could stick to our plan. And then when it doesn't work, which it rarely ever does, we get defeated, we get exhausted, and we're told it's our fault, right? We're told it's our fault. I just want to hereby absolve you of any guilt or shame that you guys have ever been conditioned to believe because you don't have enough willpower. Because I hate those words. We're not going to use them. I don't think willpower and food should even be, we don't need willpower for our food. That's a modern day construct, because we ask people to do ridiculous things with their food that they would need willpower with. And you know how that ends up. It doesn't, because everybody's in the same boat. Here we are. So it's not your fault. You're working against your biology, and your biology will always win, as it should. Hunger will always win. Hunger is a biological imperative, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful and it exists for a reason. It's not a flaw. It's not a deficit in your character. It's not a morality thing. It's literally human design, and that's what I need you guys to understand. We're hardwired to eat. There's a book called Hardwired to Eat. If you want to look at it, it's by Rob Wolf. He's great. It's a great book. It's an evolutionary scale. It's a survival mechanism. We're hardwired to eat as much as we can, whenever we can, as fast as we can. That's in your DNA, guys. That's woven into your little genetic blueprint to eat like that. The humans who seeked out food and the humans who seeked out sex were the ones who survived, right? Going back to evolution here a little bit. We have these little pleasure centers in our brain that reward us, right? It makes us feel good, gives us that little dopamine hit when we eat and when we have sex. That's kind of like nature's way of encouraging those behaviors, because that's what our species relied on, right? We needed those two things in order for, procreation and us to exist. Problem being, we evolved in food scarcity. Okay. Food was not abundant back then. It was hit or miss whether we had food. We were always in search of food. That's why when we found food, we ate as much as we can, whenever we can, as fast as we can, because we didn't know if somebody was going to try to steal the food, right? Another predator. We didn't know when our next meal would be. So we gorged. That's how it was. I always use the example of like the honey hive. Okay. Just put your old ancestor hat on right now. You're walking, you're meandering around, and you see a honey hive in the tree. Do you think we would have risked our life, blood and tears, to climb up to this, possibly get stung to death, right? Because living in the ancient world here, they didn't know any better, to get to the honey, and then you sat up there and you're like, man, this has got too many calories. Can't do it. Like, too many calories. I got to enter this into MyFitnessPal. I should save a little bit for later because this is too much food. I'm going to put some honey here in my pocket. Like, no, we literally ate it all until there was none left. That's what we had to do. Now we live in an environment where we have access to food 24/7. 24/7, the snap of our fingers, freaky fast, just like Jimmy John's. And our environment is mismatched from our biology. Okay. Our environment, our modern food environments are mismatched from our biology. This is why the whole moderation thing. Nobody's a moderator, guys. I hate to break it to you. Somebody said, hold on, let me think of it. There's like these psychological tests. Let me know if you guys know what I'm talking about. And you can like fill out a little test, and it tells you if you're an abstainer or a moderator or do you guys know what I'm talking about? Have you heard, Angela? And I don't have a word for it, but so somebody argued with me once that like there are moderators. I'm like, That's based on psychology, though. I'm talking about biology. Like our biology, we're not moderators. We're not set up to moderate our food. We're set up to feast and we're set up to fast. Okay. I'm not putting anybody on some crazy fasting thing, but our bodies do well in a feasted or fed state, and our bodies do well in a state where we're just like not having food for a reasonable amount of time. That's also where that snacking piece comes in, right? We're not grazers. Like by design, our physiology is not set up to graze like a cow, right? A cow's physiology is meant to graze. They need to be grazing all day, every day to get in the required nourishment and nutrients that they need. Humans, we're not. We're not grazing animals. We're not snacking animals. So that in the sense of just like the mindless kind of snacking and grazing and nibbling and picking at food all day, that's where we can kind of bump into issues with kind of how our body metabolizes food and partitions food and things like that. So if we keep the unhealthy, unsupportive foods in our environment, it's probably going to be a little bit harder. Might be a little bit harder to make good choices, not because there's something wrong with you. Okay. It's not because something's wrong with you, but because it's our human design. But that's where kind of the personal responsibility piece comes into play. Okay. So really quick, I'm going to dive into what I sent you guys this morning about the foods that I'm nicely encouraging you guys to tap the brakes on for right now. If this feels overwhelming, you're like, oh my God, brains and dairy and snacks, and like she's trying to kill me, just pick one. Okay. I don't want to make, if this is too hard, you're never going to do it. Okay. So if that feels too uncomfortable for you, that's okay. Okay. Maybe just pick one for now. Okay. Grain-based food, grains, right? The beloved base of our food pyramid. And I'm asking you to not eat them. Food groups are a governmental construct, you guys. They do not exist. I hate to tell you, food does not exist in groups. We can throw out the food groups. Nobody's dying here from the lack of food groups. So grain-based food, wheat, corn, rice, barley, oats. You can tell it's the end of the day here because my brain's starting to tick down here a little bit. And all their derivatives, right? The cookies, the breads, the pastas, the cakes, all of those things that are made with grains. I don't care if they're whole grains. I don't care if they're refined grains. I'm going to go more in depth next week about why I'm asking you to take these things out, at least for right now. But in the meantime, don't worry. We're not losing any nutrition on this, okay? Despite being the center point of the modern day human diet, grains offer relatively little nutrition. Okay. There's nothing that you can get from a grain that you can't get from a different food in a more appropriate way. Does that make sense? People will be like, yeah, but grains have nutrition in them. They sure do. They've got B vitamins, they've got zinc, they've got iron, they've got all of these things. But other foods, animal foods, fruits, vegetables, things like that, that don't have the potential irritant to them also have that nutrition. So you don't have to worry about that. Legumes, so beans, right? Lentils, kidney beans, peanut butter, soybeans, tofu, things like alfalfa. I should take that off. Who is eating alfalfa? Somebody want to tell, like, I think of alfalfa, A is in like Little Rascals, alfalfa, and then like a horse eating alfalfa. You know, it's just weird. I'm going to take that off. Nobody eats alfalfa anymore.
What about the Jerusalem artichoke on your food list? I read that. I was like, who eats that? Like, I've never seen that at a store, but okay.
I wonder, and I don't eat that. I don't know what that is,
I
but
don't know what it is either.
that's on the food list. And clearly there's a wide variety of fruits and vegetables that I'm not even aware of, including alfalfa. But Courtney, you were going to say something.
Alfalfa is, and I know you hate protein powder and we shouldn't be eating it. So I'm not, you don't even have to say it, but I know that there's a lot of these like cleanses and stuff like that that put alfalfa in there. And so that's like one place I've seen it. Other than that, I eat artichokes and artichoke hearts. So I'm the weirdo on that from the list, but I don't eat alfalfa and I don't know other than horses who does.
I know. Horses, right?
Yeah.
But horses can eat some of those grains because they have the physiology to do that. So legumes, similar but different properties of grains. That's why the legumes kind of come out. Excessive sugar, okay? And this is like one of those like I don't want to a little bit of sugar in your diet is not the hill I want to die on. People will be like, "Well, what about my pickles and my ketchup?" I'm like, I don't give two shits about your pickles or your ketchup. Like that is like minuscule sugar there and like the sugar that you get from like fruits and vegetables. Like vegetables are sugar too, right? That's how they break down in the body. So I'm talking about, you guys know what I'm talking about, excessive sugar, like binging on candy, like the soda pops, the things like that. We probably don't want to be doing. Seed oils, that might be new to you guys. I don't know. It's becoming a little bit more popular, but a lot of people are still like thrown back by that. They're like, I've never really heard of that. Seed oil, so canola, soybean, sunflower, safflower, the generic vegetable oil that like your parents might have cooked with, you still might cook with too. Get rid of those. Um,
What about the sesame oil though? Because that's a seed.
it is, I think it's a little less detrimental. And most people that are using sesame oil, it's like small, right? You're making like an
Yeah.
Asian dish and you're using a little sesame oil on it. So it's like, I think those things are fine.
Okay.
These oils, they're sneaky though. So when you're doing your pantry purge, you got to look at stuff like in your refrigerator, condiments are a common place, like mayo, salad dressings, packaged frozen foods. If you go to a restaurant, unfortunately, they douse your food in canola. Like that's what the cooking oil is at restaurants, most restaurants. So be aware of that. Dairy, that was the other one, right? Dairy. Snacks was the other one. I'm not going to go too far into that because we kind of talked about why I would like people to try to tap the brakes on the snacking and really hunker into their meals. Um, the dairy, you guys, I just put dairy back in. I just want you guys to know that you are the group that gets killed with this. Um, I used to get so much pushback from asking people to take out dairy because it was like I was cutting off their limb. They're like, "What? How do I drink coffee without my cream?" I was like, you just don't put the cream in the coffee and then you drink the coffee. I don't like that's how you don't drink coffee with cream in it. Um, but this is a hard one because it's the hardest, I think, of all of them, to be honest, is usually what I hear. Because it feels like a lot of our favorite foods, like the milk and the yogurt and the cream cheese and the cottage cheese and the cheese. And I love hard cheese and I love cream, protein powders, things like that. It's not about the lactose. People always say that. Like a lot, if you are lactose intolerant, of course, don't eat dairy. Okay, don't eat dairy. Probably not a good idea. But I'm not talking about the lactose. I'm talking about the proteins that are found in dairy. The whey and casein protein molecules can often be a common immunogenic, immune response, inflammatory food for people. And there's only one way to find out, and you got to take it out for a little bit. So take it out for one day. You'll probably realize how hard it wasn't. If you really want to see how good you can feel, I would say take it out for 14 days, those foods. You know, if you want to just start with grains and do it 14 days, and then you want to move to dairy and do it this is your guys' journey, and I'll support that whatever way. If 14 days sounds too long, do it for a week. Do it for 4 days and just see what happens. So like here's the thing. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of like telling people what they can and cannot eat. I kind of am, but I'm kind of not. I'm asking you to tap the brake on some like food groups that just they don't make people feel well. Okay. And you guys came here because you don't feel well and you want to feel better. So it might be worth taking these things out. If you guys want to keep chips in the house, totally you guys' choice. We're all adults. We control, right? We're the grocery, most of us anyways. These roles might be flipped. I don't want to offend anybody. If your husband does the grocery shopping, that's amazing. Mine does not. But we're the adults and we get to control. We buy the groceries, so we get to control what comes into the house. But I'm just asking you guys to understand that these foods, they not only look really good because your biology, but they're engineered, right? The ultra processed foods, they're engineered to make it very difficult to stop eating. Okay. Like Oreos are designed for you to not stop eating. Doritos, they're designed for you to not be able to stop eating. There are PhD level food scientists whose sole job is to make these foods that intentionally light up those little pleasure centers, like I told you. So you don't stop eating it, because if you don't stop eating it, you keep buying it and they make money, you know? And I know that sounds a little conspiratorial. It doesn't sound conspiratorial. It's just like common sense,
at all.
you know?
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, food companies exist to make you buy their food, not because they really care about your health. So a couple more things here. I'm almost done, actually. The pantry purge, because I always get questions because, well, Brandy, I live with a family, I live with roommates, I can't throw out all of their food. They're not doing this program, all of that stuff. I'm going to give you two sides of Coach Brandy, and you can pick which Coach Brandy that you resonate more with. Okay. There's the sensitive side of me that tells you, I don't want to make things harder for you. I don't want to create conflict or tension in your house. I don't want you getting in a fight with your partner because you're pulling ice cream out of their hands and trying to throw it in the garbage. I don't want to do that. And so you have to do what's going to work with your family. And then there's the tough love coach, of which I'm not a tough love coach. I do want to say that, but I do get a little tough lovey with that. That says, like, nobody needs this food, right? Like, everybody could benefit from eating human food. Our kids don't need macaroni and potato chips. Do they want those things? Do they like those things? Of course. You know, we all do. Nobody, when people are like, oh gosh, that food's so gross, I'm like, no, it's not. It's delicious. Like, that food is delicious. I'm not going to sit here and say that stuff doesn't taste good. And I think people are weird and they're trying to be virtuous, saying like Doritos don't taste good. I'm like, they're fucking delicious. What are you talking about? Like, they're designed that way. But we don't need them. Our kids don't need them. We're all humans and we all need human nutrition. Our nutritional requirements for adults and children are essentially the same. Kids just need more food to kind of support their growing bodies and their growing brains. We don't need that anymore because we shouldn't be growing anymore, right? Our brains aren't really growing anymore. Our bodies essentially shouldn't be growing anymore. There's nuance to that. So there's two about your pantry purge. So you're going to have to, and we can talk that through if you need to talk that through more in the group. So we're going to get rid of the unsupported foods, go stock up on the human foods. Okay. Meat, eggs, fish, poultry, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, fermented foods, dairy intolerant. That little list you guys will be able to recite just like I did. Like you've said, I've said that literally trillions of times in my existence so far. They're human foods, right? They're whole, they're pure, they're more natural foods. We're biologically designed to eat them. You have a food list. It's not cumulative. Please don't live and die by that food list. Obviously, it's weird, right? Like, that is something that I got from my, I've added to it, like the fermented foods and stuff like that, but that came from the Primal Health Institute when I graduated their program like many, many moons ago. These foods, they support our bodies, they support our big brains, they give us bioavailable nutrition, and most importantly, they make us feel good. So I want you guys to go stock up on that stuff. Last part here. We might go a few minutes over if you guys are cool with that. But I don't have much here. So when I get to the end here, I'll check in on some questions or anything like that. I just want to talk about your food fundamental quick. Eat meals, ditch snacks. That sounds pretty logical. What you guys are going to do this week and beyond is every time you get hungry, you're going to make a meal of human food and you're going to eat it all the way to satiety. There's two parts there. You're going to make a meal and you're going to eat it all the way to satiety. I'm a staunch believer that if you need snacks in between your meals aren't doing their jobs. Okay. What do we think about that? I mean, eat meals when we get hungry. It sounds pretty logical when you say it out loud, doesn't it? You're like, yeah, no shit, Brandy. Thanks for that. Like, really great advice there. But we don't do that. We eat and we don't eat for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with hunger and satiety, right? We eat because clocks, satietal cues, meal times, right? It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's snack time. Snack times we eat because we've been told by Jim Bob, the 20-year-old trainer with a six-pack, that you need to eat 6 small meals a day and count your calories. You've been told by, a nutrition coach that you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours to keep your metabolism firing, which is bullshit. It's not even how the metabolism works. Run away from those people, please. We eat because we're bored. We don't eat because we're fasting, right? We have these rigid fasting rules and now we're not eating and we're like trying to stave off hunger. So we do a lot of kooky things, a lot of micromanaging of our food and our hunger. And I want you guys to divorce from all of that. Okay. So when you feel hunger, of which we should feel in our bellies, if you don't feel it in your belly right now, that is okay. It's interesting, we're actually feed ourselves. Okay, we're not actually feeding our bellies. I know we feel hunger in our bellies, but we actually feed ourselves. So what happens is our cells, all these little trillions of cells that you have on your body that that read your hunger signaling, they notice that fuel is running low, right? Your cells are like, hey, yo, body, brain, the fuel is running low, and your cells send a little message up to your brain, and your brain cues up hunger in your belly for you to eat. That's how it works. Isn't that kind of neat? If you feel hunger elsewhere, like in your mind, right? Hangry, that's a common one. Hangry, shaky, dizzy, headaches, nauseous, all of those things when we get hungry, that's a cue your metabolism needs a little TLC. Okay. But that's why you're here. So that's okay. Your brain thinks you're starving, but you're not starving. Nobody's starving here. Okay. This is not a lack of food. This is not a lack of, everybody can, people with weight loss goals, you can look down and you're like, what the hell? I'm not starving. I have fuel that needs to go. Like, we've got to encourage it to go. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to encourage your body to tap into your stored body fat so we can burn body fat and lose weight. That's how it works. Maybe you don't know what hunger feels like. I used to work with a female a while back, and I'm doing this, right? I'm telling her about hunger. I'm telling her about this food fundamental, and she's looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, am I not? And I'm trying to understand, I'm like, am I not tracking with you? And she's like, I don't know what hunger feels like. She had micromanaged and dieted for so long that she literally couldn't identify like hunger and satiety. Those things were so far past her. That's the problem, folks. We all have a perfect innate hunger signaling system. Our metabolism is part of that. That tells us when to eat and how much to eat. You have that system online. It works. It works perfectly. You were born with it, but we tend to override that, right? We let our intellect override our intuition a lot of the times. So I'm asking you guys to try to get out of your heads and drop down into your bodies and really hone in on hunger and satiety. So the last part of that, the second part of that, is eat a meal, a full meal, all the way to satiety. This is where I lose people. Okay. Satiety is a state of being well fed, right? Like nourished, like you're good. Satiety is a feeling that we get when it's time to put the fork down. Have you guys just ever sat up to a huge meal and you're eating and then all of your body, all of a sudden your body's like, we're done. Like, no more food, put the fork down. That is satiety. Okay. Think contentment. We've been programmed by our wellness and diet culture, especially women, to eat small bites of food, to graze, to nibble, to pick at our food all day, to do a little snacking thing, to eat light, to eat date, don't be gluttonous with your food, that most of us never feel what satiety actually feels like because we are worried we will overeat. Okay. But satiety sends a very important message, a very important signal to your metabolism, to your body, that I need us to reacclimate. Okay. Reorient. That's the word I was looking for. You might feel like you're eating too much. I promise you're not, okay? Especially with, like, if you're eating the foods that I'm asking you to eat, right? There's nuance with that. If you're eating pancakes and you're trying to eat to satiety, you're going to have a hard time, okay? You're not. You might be, for the first time ever, actually eating enough. Okay, we need to eat enough. Diet culture programming runs deep, you guys. Satiety is eating enough food, and then how long that food keeps your hunger at bay. Okay, you eat a meal, you eat it all the way to satiety, and then how long does that meal keep you satiated for? Is it 3 hours? Is it 5 hours? Is it 4 hours? Whatever it might be. You guys, I eat my breakfast, my first meal of the day, my breakfast break at, I think, 11. And this was over our dinner time, of which I do want people to sit down and eat with your families. We're not doing weird stuff here. But I haven't eaten yet, but that's satiety there. I ate enough at my meal The first that I've just been fine. It's not, I haven't even thought about food. I haven't wanted to snack or anything. You might not be there. Don't be like, oh my God, Brandy just went 7 hours with food, I would die. You don't need to be where I'm at, we're on different um paths right now, but I'm just putting that out as like that's an example of satiety. Okay. So this might feel scary, it might feel a little uncomfortable for some of you who have been dieting and trying to eat less and less and less and less your entire life, but that's okay. I'm here for that. We're gonna fix that. So that's like one of my big knocks. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just a question about that. So I think one thing I get kind of like stuck on, and it's probably because of that diet culture, is like they're like, well, you shouldn't go so many hours without eating, whatever that is, right? And I'm like, well, if you're not hungry, whatever. But I always feel like I'm fighting that, or in that same vein, like as soon as you wake up, you should eat. And I'm like, well, I'm not always hungry. Sometimes I'm starving, right? But there are some days, like today, I wasn't hungry until 11 o'clock. Like, I just don't know if that means like my metabolism is wonky or if that's just normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it could be a couple of things. Like you might not have been as hungry today because of what you ate yesterday or how late you ate yesterday, right? There's things. And we're going to work on the food timing piece. Like those are going to be some other fundamentals on the way. But for right now, I want us to trust that our body can tell us when it's hungry. There is no rule. I see these rules of like, don't go more than 2 or 3. It's like, that doesn't make sense because humans existed without food and we had to go several hours, days sometimes. I don't want people doing that. We're not going crazy here. But our machinery is capable of doing that. Our machinery is just a little broken right now. So people who feel like they need to eat every 2 to 3 hours, they're like, well, I don't get it. I am hungry. I'm like, okay, well, then that's what we're going to do right now. You're going to honor that hunger. Okay. We're going to eat our full meals and we're going to let our body do its thing on kind of a biochemical level here. So I think, Courtney, what you're saying, trust that. If you're not hungry, then it's fine. But that's like one of my knocks on like calorie counting and macros and points and portion sizes. We let these arbitrary diet numbers dictate our hunger and our fullness, right? Like, oh, my macros said I only have this much fat grams to eat in a day, or my calories, my calories are out for the day, but I'm hungry, so I guess I have to stop eating. That is not satiety. Okay, that's not satiety. This is us trying to follow rigid diet rules that make no sense to our bodies whatsoever. There's one thing I saw on Instagram and I was scrolling not too long ago, and somebody was talking about eating to satiety, and then she proceeded to tell people to eat to an 8 out of 10 fullness or an 80%. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what does that even mean? Like an 8 out of 10 fullness? Like, do we have a little like percentage barometer in our belly that just like dings when do you know what I mean? Like, that is such fussy micromanagement and it makes people very confused of how to eat. And that's why culturally we're here. Nobody knows how to eat.
Yeah.
We got to trust our bodies. Our bodies know how to fuel themselves. Our metabolism knows how to fuel itself. And here's the thing, when there's periods of times where you're not eating, right, between your meals, when you're not snacking, guess what happens? Your body's like, well, there's not food here, so I guess I'm going to tap into some stored fuel. That's your body fat, right? And your body gets to snack on itself. Like that's what weight loss essentially is. And we're incentivizing that environment, okay? A nice little test of satiety. If you guys want to really test this out, pile more food on your plate than you'd ever think you were going to eat. Okay, I'm serious. Do this for your first meal tomorrow, especially protein. Just like load it. Load your plate and eat it until your body says no. Eat it until there's like a slight like, I don't need any more food right now. Welcome to your natural satiety point. Okay. And then you're going to pay attention to how long that meal keeps you satiated until you feel hunger again. And your hunger is going to feel a little bit differently throughout the day. I'm not going to get in the weeds because I'll go in the weeds about that. I truly believe if we can find ourselves back to like a state of being nourished, the emotional eating, the boredom eating, the stress eating, the mindless eating, the sugar cravings, all of these like self-proclaimed identities that we hold on to will be less loud. They're going to quiet down a little bit and maybe even dissipate completely.
Yeah.
704. I feel like I did really good. The first one's always a little bit longer because I have to do I do the housekeeping and there's like a little preamble and I'm telling you about my story, but you don't have to hear that every single time. Hold on. Let me click out of this. Let me open Zoom. Let me open um where's my chat? Okay. Um, Courtney, did you say Lindsay posted something?
She did. I can't copy it, but she basically said her why was because she wanted to finish something and be a good example to her daughter and quiet the chatter.
Yes. And I bet by chatter, Lindsay, you might be just catching the replay of this. I bet by chatter you mean the food noise. I think there's food noise exists two things. There's food noise that we hear in the space, right? The nutrition space, the diet space of like, eat this, don't eat this, carbs will make you fat, fat will make you fat, protein's killing you. Don't eat before bedtime, like that, like all that's food noise. But then there's also the food noise in our body, like the hunger, the cravings, the low energy, the weight gain, all of those. So my hunch is, Lindsay, that that's what you want to quiet down. And if that's the case, I think you're in the right spot. Um, Angela, with your question in the Facebook, I will add some more context in the Facebook group just so I can be conscious of time here. But it's a good conversation. I think we should keep having it because you do have a little bit different of a circumstance. You got cakes, wonderful, delicious wedding moist cakes in your face all day long. I'm kind of a little jealous. And then I'm also like, I'm really glad I don't have that job.
I know. Well, and it sounds like Courtney enjoys baking a lot too. So she kind of has the same thing where, she doesn't want to like not do it anymore, right? Like you want to do it for
Right.
other people. And for me, it's a job. So, yeah, it's like it's there. Okay. So now, like, how do I stop doing? Because I have favorite flavors that I like. And I'm like, oh, I have a little bit of red velvet cake. I'm going to just eat that while I'm working. And like, I can't have just a little bit. I want to eat all of it,
Right?
It's
Because we're
good. And
not good
there's,
moderators, because we're not good moderators, you know?
oh,
And I think there's going to have to be like, I know you really want to feel well.
mm-hmm.
So we are going to have to probably make some changes to how we engage with food, right? Because it's one of those like stupid platitudes of nothing changes if nothing changes. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I don't like health platitudes, but I do like that one because I do think it rings true. And I also think that by like really honing in and managing our hunger with nutrient dense, supportive, healthy foods, that inclination to to snack and nibble on those foods might quiet down a little bit.
I
So
hope
let's
so.
see. I think it will. I think it will. So let's see where that goes after a while. Next week, if you guys remind me, I'll try to mental note. I want to talk about cravings and like the psychology of cravings because I have a little bit of a spiel. Um, and that might be helpful for you to hear, Angela, too, about just kind of what happens when we keep satisfying our cravings, like
Yeah.
on a brain level. I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. The brain level. Like a neural paths. There we go. Neural paths. That's what I was trying to say. There's a piece of that. I'll talk about that next week on our call. Do you guys have any questions? What like are you guys? How are you feeling? We good?
Yeah,
I
I
feel
feel good. I feel like you covered a lot of really good things. I definitely am interested in the topic of like eating out of like avoiding, like procrastination, like, oh, I'm gonna do this because I don't feel like doing this other task. I'm gonna eat instead. Or like, oh, I've been really good all day, so I want to, I deserve something or I want to reward myself for being good all day. Like those emotional things that have nothing to do with actually being hungry. So, and I'm sure you'll cover that more.
For sure. And that's going to come up organic. That's our little diet brains that we need to like, and we're going to work really hard to put our diet brains to the coffin where they deserve to be. You know what I mean? That's your diet.
Yeah.
That's your diet programming just kind of coming back out. But I also think our diet programming can be a little bit more loud when our body is not working how it should be. That clatter in our heads can be a little bit more loud and a little bit like more prominent. So yeah, I think that's good. Do you guys have any questions about the comments or I mean the content?
I just want to tell Angela, so I think one thing I've learned, I I used to eat similarly to this a very long time ago. Before, you have kids and you get kind of like stuck in this thing and you hear all this chatter like, this is bad for you and you can't eat this, and you have to eat it this time and all that. I think though, like Brandy said, those cravings and things kind of start to disappear, and like that I want to eat this cake and these cookies. And this is from someone who, like, when someone says, "Oh, I only need to eat one cookie," and I'm like, I could eat 25 cookies. Like,
Right.
I love that stuff. I love it. I like to make it. I like to eat it. But I just feel like it's worth saying eventually you stop feeling like that once you've been eating this way for a long period of time. And so I just feel like you, like, right now you're like, oh no, that'll never happen, but I think it will. And like Brandy said, it will. It's just kind of relearning all the things that have like we've been bombarded with for so long. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I'm here, because I'm like, intuitively I know this, but I just can't get my shit together. So
Mhm.
And
like I need
and
the
we're
help.
told not to trust our intuition anymore.
Right.
Like we're told that we need to outsource this kind of stuff. Like you can't possibly trust your body. You're never going to be able to regulate your food. You can't, you know what I mean? Like it's a very disempowering system. And it's like, I don't believe in any of that. Like I believe our body 100% can be leaned on, and we just have to, it just takes some unlearning. Like you said, we're going to have to unlearn some stuff, we're going to have to relearn some new stuff. And like you said, your palate's going to change, Angela. Like over a period of time, when you kind of get some of the stuff out that messes with our hunger and our ability to tap into hunger and satiety. Like I crave red meat, you guys. I crave it because I've taught my brain to crave it. I don't really crave foods anymore. We have treats. Like I love certain things. I love chocolate. I love old fashions. That is my drink of choice, 100%. Um, but I don't really have cravings. And I crave my food. I crave my eggs. I crave my red meat, because everybody talks about cravings in a negative context, but it's like cravings are a conditioned response. I'll talk about this next week. It's a conditioned response. So you can actually condition your brain the other way too. You know what I mean? And that starts with eating meals of supportive, healthy human food when we get hungry. That starts retraining your brain. So